Princess your eyes.
Let's call the meeting to order. Millersburg Planning Commission meeting for April 16, 2009. And we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You got your sound on?
The white, the J to the Y.
Okay, we'll have a roll call, and I understand we've got a couple members absent. Will you make note of that, please? Okay, the first thing to handle is the Planning Commission meetings, approval of the February 19th and the March 11th Planning Commission hearings. Let's take February 19th first. Any comments, corrections? Additions or anything? Okay, how about the March 11th?
I did have one correction. Under C, it says major, the first word in that paragraph, and it really should be mayor.
Major?
Yeah,
Got it. Oh, we can correct that.
yeah.
Let's correct that as noted.
That was it.
Okay.
The J must be next to the Y on the keyboard.
If there's no other corrections, I'll ask for a motion to approve the February 19th and March 11th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the February
19th,
19th and March 11th
okay.
I'll second.
minutes as written.
You got a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, let's go to the hearing for PA 1902, the Weddle partition. I'll get it. So we're going to open a public hearing on that, and I have to read this first. Tonight we're holding a public hearing regarding a land petition number PA 1902, the Weddle land petition. The meeting will proceed as follows. The required disclosure will be read, staff will make a presentation followed by the applicant, and then anyone else who wishes to address the issue will get an opportunity to speak. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each for testimony. Finally, there will be time for a rebuttal by the applicant. And of course, any members that wish to speak on this particular item needs to sign up. If you, okay. We'll gavel a hearing, and Jake, would you read our disclosure statement, please?
Yes, I will. All persons testifying will be deemed parties to the application and must provide their full name and mailing address. The city zoning code specifies applicable criteria to be relied upon in making a decision. Those criteria and findings of fact are in the city staff report. Public testimony should be limited to the criteria and findings of fact or to other city or state land use standards that the person testifying believes apply to the proposed land use action. Failure to raise an issue in person or in writing with sufficient detail to afford the hearing body or the applicants an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes appeal to the city council or land use board of appeals, or to seek damages in circuit court due to condition of approval. Before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may ask the Planning Commission for an opportunity to present additional relevant evidence or testimony that is within the scope of the hearing. The hearing body may grant the request by scheduling a date to finish the hearing, a continuance, to a time and date certain, or by leaving the record open for additional evidence or testimony.
Thank you, Jake. Questions for the commission? Does any members of the commission wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias? Does any member of the commission wish to report any site visits or ex parte contacts?
Oh, bye.
I would suggest that you, just for the record, when you ask this question, do any members of the commission wish to declare any potential actual conflict of interest? I would say just none noted, so the record indicates that none were noted, other than just silence.
Okay.
Okay, so any of these, if none's noted, just write none noted, or, I'm sorry, verbalize none noted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the commission to hear this matter? No comments. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the impartiality or ex parte disclosure of any member of the commission? No, again, no comments. So we'll have staff report now. Mr. Straight, would you read that, please?
You bet. Thank you, Chair, fellow commissioners. Matt Straight presenting tonight for staff. The project is located north of Millersburg Drive and just west of Morningstar Road. The property is zoned rural residential 2.5 acre minimum urban conversion. The application, as it was submitted, proposes a two-lot split, partitioning 2.94 acres into two parcels, one of which was 1.98 acres, and the second one, which is 0.96 acres. However, after the staff report was submitted, the applicants went through the conditions of approval and had took some issue with one of our conditions that required us to have the existing house connect to water and sewer prior to the map recording. And so in the interest of not doing that, the applicants asked if they could revise their project description and modify the map so that the one parcel that they're creating with the home on it could be 2.5 acres in size, thus meeting the minimum requirement for rural and keeping the lot size large enough so they don't have to connect to water and sewer. So this is the map as it was submitted, and it was in the staff report as it went out to you guys. Subsequent to the staff report being printed and published and distributed, the applicant revised their proposal to look like this. And you can see they've created one parcel there, which is 2.5 acres. And again, because it's 2.5 acres, it meets the definition of rural and therefore doesn't have to connect to city water and sewer pursuant to our code. Staff went through this and we created a memo that we distributed to everybody up here, and we have extra copies for some in the audience if you want one. That memo goes through the revised project description. It goes through a revised condition of approval where we basically just nixed the fact that parcel one has to connect to water and sewer. And then it also included some additional findings saying that staff did go through the existing findings in the staff report and found that this new modified version still meets all those requirements. So there's no issue there. But we'll include that memo in the record, and when you make a motion at the end, if it's to approve, you want to make sure that you include those findings as part of that motion as well. Now, in order to support the project tonight, the applicant must meet specific criterion, so we're going to walk through those one at a time. First, the project must not conflict with a comprehensive plan or with state goals. Based on staff's review of the project, the proposed project satisfies all the goals, and the comprehensive plan is consistent with it. The project cannot conflict with the city codes in any way. The smaller lot is considered urban, and so it has to connect to water and sewer like we already discussed. The larger parcel is rural and would not have to connect to water and sewer. But besides that, and the conditions of approval that regulated that, they met all the other standards from the zoning and the requirements for that. The proposal must comply with ORS Chapter 92, which we've talked about before. Generally, that has to do with subdividing, but most of the requirements in that have to do with what happens after you take an action on the project and recording the final plat. It doesn't necessarily pertain to this. A few things do pertain, but those are echoed in our code, and so the project's consistent with all those requirements. The project must also be designed in a way where if it can be further subdivided, the proper access is there to allow the lots to further subdivide. In this case, both of the lots can further subdivide in the future, and the design of the map doesn't preclude those future subdivisions in any way because they both connect and have frontage on Millersburg Drive, so there's plenty of access. No issues there. The property also must not it's not allowed to create any additional curb cuts onto Millersburg Drive, but in this case, the applicant already had 3 curb cuts, one of which is going to go to this new proposed parcel. So there's no issues there. The design also cannot preclude development of any neighboring properties, very similarly. And so based on the image you see here and our analysis, there's ample access for all the neighboring properties, and the design of their map shouldn't preclude access for anybody else near them if they wanted to subdivide in the future. All the streets that are proposed on the map have to conform with the city standards, but in this case, they're not proposing any streets, so there's no issue there. The utilities required to serve the project must also exist at the project site, and as shown on this image, water and sewer exist within Millersburg Drive to serve the smaller parcel that's going to have to connect. There are no known concerns on the property with drainage, though the applicant didn't provide us adequate details to be able to tell if that was consistent with the code. And so we've added a condition of approval that requires a more detailed drainage plan to be submitted for us to review before the map goes to record. Lastly, the project is not permitted to create or emit any kind of hazards, but we don't anticipate any such hazards beyond those that are typical with a single-family home and consistent with our code. So with that, and with the memo that we passed out, staff recommends approval of the project subject to the conditions of approval. Now, we've done things a little bit differently as far as the motions are concerned today, and we wanted to be a little bit more detailed in how those motions were made and what was said when you make those motions. So we created some sample motions for approval or denial. Of course, you could continue it too, and that's a legitimate motion. And we've passed those out to everybody. That way, anybody who wants to make a motion has a sample motion right in front of you. And we've made one for each one of the different items on the agenda today. So obviously, just the first ones pertain to this project. So that concludes staff's presentation. Myself and the applicants are available if you have any questions.
Now, are the changes you've made recently on this, is this included in this motion?
Yes, as long as you, well, actually, we didn't add in there that the memo should be part of it as well, but you should probably explain when you make a motion that the findings in the staff report and those included in the memo are part of your motion.
Okay.
And, Matt, we need to make sure that this is part of the record as well. And
Well, once it's introduced by staff, it's
and
part of the
so
record, yeah.
So, because this is part of the record, we should be fine with this. I want to make sure this is part of the record, but we will include this memo in our motion as well. Yep.
Okay. Would the applicant please come forward? Please state your name and address, sir.
Scott Weddle, 3353 Millersburg Drive.
And we'd love to hear your proposal.
We're pretty straightforward. Matt did a good job. We wish to defer the hookup on the existing house for a later time, so we amended the proposal to make that new lot smaller and still meet all the criteria. The one thing you said was additional information on drainage. That includes, or that's pertaining to the drainage ways in the area, or what exactly?
But basically, how the site drains and how you're proposing to address any kind of drainage that is on the site. Not necessarily how it's impacting drainage ways, but just the drainage that happens on your property.
Okay.
And Janelle can explain that to you in more detail after the hearing if you like.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be real extensive, but she's looking for a few calculations, things like that.
I've got a couple of questions there with that, though, but, yeah, nothing really to add. Like I said, Matt did a good presentation, so.
Okay. At this time, we'll ask if anyone wishes to speak in favor. Is there anyone that wishes to oppose the application? I guess we don't need a rebuttal then.
Would not appear so.
Do you, Bev, have any further comment before we ask for deliberation on this?
I do not.
Okay. Well, then I'll close the public meeting and we'll have a discussion among our members then. Questions?
Looks straightforward to me.
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Okay.
So I do have one question, and it probably doesn't apply today, but if they ever do subdivide, the easements would be taken at that time, right? There would have to be easements for roads if it was into more than 3 parcels?
Oh, yeah, more
And
than
the
easements, they'd have to
And the
provide,
easement would be taken care of at that time?
sure, at the future stage of subdivision, yeah. Because there's a lot of different ways they could subdivide and a lot of different ways they could get the access, so we'd have to wait to see what they propose.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no further comments, I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to approve the PA 19-02 Weddle partition now. Do you want me to read the rest of the, normally
I think
would
our
say-
attorney would appreciate that.
Yes, and verbatim, and then also add in there, if you are going to, may I make a suggestion? Where you say the conditions of approval and memo,
Under staff recommendations,
well, here, I'll give you this, staff dated 4/16/18, so. Probably right here, the conditions of approval and memo from staff dated 4/16/19, and then just continue on. So you want to start reading there, down to here.
okay, if I would have known I have to read so much, I would have brought my glasses.
Or not made the motion.
Yes, I'd like to make approval to approve, I'd like to make to approve PA 19-02 Weddle partition. Based upon the findings of fact, any testimony, and the conditions of approval, and the memos from staff dated 4/16/19, recommended, listed in the staff report, and because of proposed projects satisfies the applicant criteria. One motion for the adoption of the findings from the... I motion for the adoption of the findings from the staff report dated April 9th of 2019, and further motion that the Planning Commission approve partition application number PA 19-02 Weddle partition pursuant of the conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Second.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Then I'll call for a motion on that. I mean, not a motion, but all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries.
Can I make a request? Can we ask the audience to turn their phones off?
Yes, could you please turn your phones off?
Can you turn the speakers up?
Just getting closer. Turn it up, if I go more, it's going to...
Oh, well, we'll try to talk louder for you. Okay.
And so here, you
Yeah.
need to read this too, yes.
And in conclusion, we'd like to thank all of you who have testified tonight. Your comments are very, very helpful. If you'd like to appeal the decision of the City Council, you must file an appeal with staff within 15 days. Now we're going to move to the Lambrecht petition, PA 1904. Tonight, we're holding a public hearing regarding a land petition number PA 1904, the Lambrecht, land petition. The meeting will proceed as follows. A required disclosure will be read. Staff will make a presentation, followed by the applicant, and then anyone else who wishes to address the issue will be given an opportunity. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each for testimony. Finally, there will be time for rebuttal by the applicant. Any members of the audience that wish to speak must sign in order to testify. Commissioners may ask questions of the applicant, staff, or anyone else who testifies. I now call the public hearing to order. And Jake, would you read the disclosure statement, please?
Yes. All persons testifying will be deemed parties of the application and must provide their full name and mailing address. The city zoning code specifies applicable criteria to be relied upon in making a decision. Those criteria and findings of facts are in the city staff report. Public testimony should be limited to the criteria and findings of fact, or to the other city or state land use standards that the person testifying believes apply to the proposed land use action. Failure to raise an issue in person or in writing with sufficient detail to afford the hearing body or the applicants an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes appeal to the City Council or Land Use Board of Appeals, or to seek damages in circuit court due to a condition of approval. Before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may ask the Planning Commission for an opportunity to present additional relevant evidence or testimony that is within the scope of the hearing. The hearing's body shall grant a request by scheduling a date to finish the hearing, a continuance, or a time and date certain, or by leaving the record open for additional evidence or testimony.
Thank you. Questions for the commission? Do any members of the commission wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias? No comments. Does any members of the commission wish to report any site visits or ex parte contacts? No comments.
Went by. Went by to see where it was.
Okay, we have one. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the commission to hear this matter? Anybody out there? No comments. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the impartiality or ex parte disclosures? Yes.
That's on property 3268.
I don't know, we'll find out. I'm sorry, if you guys are going to make a record, can you come on up to the mic, please, and talk and address us, please?
You talking about the property on 3268?
3268 Millersburg Drive? I don't know, is that the...
That's the one
Is
you're
that the
talking
correct
about?
address?
Is that the...
Yeah, that's
Lambert
yes.
Drive? Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, can I speak?
No,
Not
no.
right now.
So
I'll
you,
call-
Soon.
Did you sign in?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll call you later.
may we just ask for clarifying, excuse me just for a second. I saw you raise your hand when you said you challenged the jurisdiction of this commission to hear this matter. Is that what you meant to raise your hand for?
No.
Okay, I didn't think...
I didn't hear everything you said.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And let's see, I think you're now on to number
Okay.
8.
Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the impartiality or ex parte disclosures of any member of the commission? And no comments. So we'll go to the staff report. Mr. Straight, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Fellow Commissioners, Matt Straight presenting tonight for staff. The project is located just across the street from the one we just talked about. The last project is south of Millersburg Drive and westerly of Mary Kay Avenue. The zoning for the site is rural residential, 10-acre minimum, urban conversion. The applicant is proposing to divide 7.61 acres into 3 parcels. As we discussed previously, the project must satisfy certain criteria from section 2.328, so we're going to walk through those real quickly. First, the project must not conflict with the comprehensive plan or with the state goals. In this case, based on staff's review, the project is consistent with both. The project must also comply with all the city codes, again, because the parcel proposed with the existing home on it, in this case, is less than the 10-acre minimum lot size. It is to be considered an urban lot and has to connect to water and sewer. And so we've added a condition of approval to the project to have that connect to water and sewer before the map goes to a final plat. The applicant's exhibits that were provided to you in the staff report actually show that they plan to connect on Mary Kay Avenue. They could also connect on Millersburg Drive, but in this case, they're proposing to go there. It's a shorter span. The project must also comply with ORS Chapter 92, which we discussed. It deals mostly with final plats, but this project does comply with a few things that do pertain. The project must also be designed in a way to allow additional subdivision in the future on the parcels. All these parcels are large enough that they could further subdivide in the future. So the slide here shows the different access points that are available, and the design of this project does not preclude any future development. In fact, to make it even more clear, you can see I threw up the new subdivision that is being constructed right now just to the west of this project site, and that's including a road that would connect to this parcel on this application as well and act as yet another entry point for the existing parcel. Likewise, the design can't preclude the neighbors from developing at any point. And so these arrows here show that there's plenty of access points for all the neighboring property if they decide to divide in the future, and that this project isn't going to preclude their access in any way. Again, this shows the neighboring map and the access points that are coming in from there, and you can even see the neighboring parcel on Millersburg Drive, just to the west of this site, will gain an additional entry point based on the neighboring subdivision. So that's just further evidence that the application tonight isn't precluding any additional access for a neighbor. The applicant is not proposing any streets, so that criterion doesn't apply. Utilities do exist at several different connection points on the site, on all sides neighboring the entire property. So there's lots of utility connection points. The design cannot impact drainage. Now, this site features some significant drainage. The proposed map that was given to us shows the wetland areas on this map and shows that there are areas outside of those where homes can be built on these properties. We have added a condition of approval asking for additional drainage details and wetland details on this property going forward. Lastly, there are no hazards that are anticipated from this project beyond that would be typical with a single-family home. So with that, staff recommends approval of the partition pending or pursuant to the conditions of approval. This concludes staff's presentation. Myself and the applicants are available if you have any questions. Yep.
I've got one on, this one here. This is regards to parcel 1.
Okay.
It almost shows a little roadway going to the right side of that.
Correct.
Are they proposing that will not be part of parcel 1? That roadway will be part of parcel 2?
Mary Kay Avenue to the east of the applicant's site, it already exists today.
Yeah.
And so they were showing that just to show the connection point. They've designed parcel 1 to kind of mirror that road coming down that way. That was something that the applicant proposed in their application. Staff didn't play any role in that, but it's to make sure that it matches the street extension as it comes down.
But that's an option for folks to get into parcel 2 is
Oh, certainly.
alongside.
Yeah, a future owner can go into parcel 2 and do further subdivisions, and that road would just curve right down into that property.
And is that piece part of parcel 2?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
What piece is that, Steve? I'm confused.
You're talking about
See this
where
one?
Mary Kay continues through here?
No, see, coming down from Millersburg Drive,
This little,
the little slice on the right side.
Right.
we need to get back in
That's
there,
the driveway.
applicants.
Hey, let's get,
Why not? Whose
Hey,
parcel is that, 1 or 2?
let's get back on point here,
That's what I was asking.
please.
Now, applicants' presentation.
We're going to ask for the applicant's presentation right now. Please come forward. And for the record, would you state your name and address, please?
Yeah, Jason Coda, 276 Northwest Hickory Street, with K&D Engineering, and helping Lisa through the application and plating process.
Would you explain our project to us and the audience, please?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Matt. You did a good job on the explanation. I'm not sure how much I can add. Yeah, the applicant's proposing to divide her existing property into 3 parcels. Parcel 1 contains an existing house in shop, and its current access to public road is a private drive or a driveway out to Millersburg Drive. She intends to keep that existing driveway with parcel 1 and not make any additional accesses, just keep things the way they are. To serve the existing house, currently it's on well and septic, and so we plan on connecting to the existing sewer line, or existing water line in Mary Kay, and then doing about a 100-foot extension of sanitary sewer to get to her property, then she would connect to that sewer main with a service lateral. And then on parcel 2, the larger 5-acre parcel, right now, she doesn't have any intentions on developing it at this time, but maybe, sell it to a developer or develop it herself in the future. But right now, there's no concrete plans or specific layouts of how future development of parcel 2 would look. And then parcel 3 is down in the southeast corner. It's kind of a unique shape of property. Reason being is we wanted to avoid impacting the floodplain and wetlands, and so that would be kind of north line runs right along that wetlands or along the floodplain boundary, and excludes impacting the wetlands as they're identified in the local inventories. Access to parcel 3 is going to be taken onto Lauren Avenue with a private drive. And as far as development of parcel 3, it's going to be a single-family home. As far as the home configuration or exact layout of how that property would develop, hasn't been determined at this time. And then I think, what's that gentleman's name? Steve. Hey, just to maybe help clarify what you're asking, Steve, were you talking about this driveway here?
Yeah, I'm just asking if that's part of parcel 1 or parcel 2.
Yeah, that's part of parcel 1, the existing driveway, and it's going to remain the same. Maybe I just want to make sure.
Is that going to feed into parcel 2 then? I mean, this goes coming down.
Yeah, no, they won't.
Okay.
So this driveway comes here, comes to the house, and comes to.
So this is still all parcel 1 here?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, and then this is parcel 2.
It's just hard to see the
Yeah,
boundaries.
there's so much going on.
Yeah, it's hard to see the boundaries.
Where is the property line delineating 1 and 2?
Yeah.
It's the curved line coming off the end of Mary Kay.
In this slide, I actually color-coded the different parcels because they were a little bit difficult to distinguish. And you can see parcel 1 to the north, 2 in the center, and then the triangular parcel 3 down to the south. If that helps.
So 2 goes up to the midpoint of what would be Mary Kay or up to the edge of Mary Kay?
Not to the midpoint, to the, what would be the north point. Right.
The north right-of-way of Mary Kay extension.
So it's to the north edge of Mary Kay?
Yeah.
Is there any future extension of Mary Kay, the dedication of that would all be on whoever owns parcel 2?
Exactly.
Because parcel 1 has kept itself out of it. Or parcel 1.
Is there any more questions for the applicant?
Oh, and I have one question maybe for you, Matt.
Sure, go ahead.
When we were looking through the report, staff report, it said that the notice of decision is valid for 2 years. And for some reason, I was thinking maybe it was 3, but could be wrong.
Well, I could certainly be wrong too. I'll look into that and get back to you.
Yeah, because if you could look into that and let us
Sure.
know.
I'll make sure the notice of determination, or the notice of decision reflects whatever our code says. And if the code says
Okay.
3, then I'll change it.
And I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure it's 2, but.
Yeah, it's been 2 all along, if I'm not
okay.
mistaken.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, you can request extensions.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we're going to ask for public testimony. Does anyone wish to speak on this subject? Come forward, please.
He's that one, Robert Reitman.
Okay, and you're Robert Reitman,
Yes,
and you live at 3170 Millersburg Drive Northeast.
yes.
Thank you.
When it started out, it used to be my dad's property. We had it all graded to the back. There was a pond, the water drained in, then it drained in the creek. In 2003, Eric Mauser dumped in 54 dumpsters of dirt and cow manure. Plugged that whole natural waterway up and flooded me approved my well, and I gave you all the information on the map. That's a 100-year floodplain. How can we build houses in that? I've been there for 50-some years. I know what the land is because my dad had it. And plus, if they start doing that, it proved my well too.
Okay.
Cow manure. I tried to get the state, I tried to get the county, I tried to they put dye on it, make sure what's going on. Nobody would help me. State lands wouldn't help me. I told you guys wouldn't help me. Now, I disapprove of putting houses back in there. I gave you all the paperwork. I sent you pictures. Last week, you saw that picture, how much water was standing back in there and when it was raining, and then we didn't have that much heavy rain.
Would staff like to address that?
We actually, that's very similar to a letter that he submitted to us that we included with the staff report, and we gave a response to each of those comments in our staff report to the Planning Commission.
I gave you the map, the 100-year floodplain.
Yeah, half of parcel 2 is floodplain. Looks like about half.
And I sent you pictures.
In wetland, yeah.
Last week, I think, no, week and a half ago when we had that rain, how much water standing back in there?
To my knowledge, are they building in the floodplains?
Well, we should clarify that what's actually being proposed is a partition. And so the partition by itself doesn't propose any construction at all. It's really just drawing lines on a map and creating future home sites. Any home that would get constructed on any of these new parcels would have to come in and make sure that they're out of the floodplain and that their drainage is appropriate and everything else. That's part of our standard building permit process review. But technically speaking, that wouldn't have anything to do with a land partition at this time, which is what we explained in the staff report as well.
Yeah, and that petition too, that's all in floodplain.
Well, we're not dealing with that part right now. The applicant is asking for a petition only.
Yeah.
They're not proposing to develop anything or build any homes. We've addressed that part of in the staff report here. So technically, we can't deal right now with what you're requesting because that's not included in this application.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I guess.
Well, when they come back to build houses or put in applications or for permits, then they will have to deal with that then.
True.
Not now, because that's not covered in this application.
Okay. The application is just asking for
All they want to do
three
is...
petitions. They want petitioned it 3 times.
All they want to do is divide the property.
3 parcels.
Yes, that's correct.
But then after that,
They'll have to come back
Then be
again,
back
and then
now-
we'll deal, the next time they come back, we'll deal with it.
then be a meeting on what's going on.
Yeah. And they will be public notices and everything else sent out. So at this point, we can't do anything about that.
Then I guess I can't, what I'm saying is nowhere for them. I mean, I'm not...
Well, you shed light on it, you have, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. And you got all the paperwork I sent you, didn't
Yes,
you?
we have.
Matt, when he's talking about the paperwork, that's been included in the record staff
Correct.
report? Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
And
Thank you.
pictures and that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming. Okay.
This is for the public testimony. Is there anybody else wants to testify?
Okay. Does anybody else in the audience wish to speak on this particular subject?
I got 4 or against it.
Either for or against it? Does staff have any more comments?
No, sir.
And you can ask, does the applicant wish to respond to anything at this time?
Does the applicant wish to make any further response? Okay. Then we're going to close this hearing. And we are deliberating now. Comments, suggestions, questions?
Matt, could you put up the future development map that you have side by side with that?
For the adjoining property or for?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
looking at both sides, so we effectively have 4 roads dead ending into this.
Correct.
It impacts our.
Well, not
connectivity,
4.
doesn't it?
Because this one to the north,
There's only 3.
this is coming to the neighbor's property.
Okay.
So it's really just Mary Kay down here and whatever this future road's gonna be called,
Okay.
under construction right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, then I would entertain a motion. And that will have to include your, where we at?
It would just be this.
On your sheet of paper there for the Landmark petition?
I'd like to,
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
14-04 Landmark petition, based upon the findings of fact, any testimony, including those included in the memo dated 4/16/19.
No, that
Well, we don't-
does not need.
We don't have a memo for this
We have
item.
no memo, yes.
Based on upon the findings of fact and any testimony, the conditions of approval and staff recommendations listed in the staff report, and because the proposed project satisfies the applicable criteria, I motion for the adoption of the findings from the staff report dated April 9th, 2019, and further motion that the planning commission approve partition application PA 1904 land rec petition partition pursuant to conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? I hear no opposed, so motion passes. In conclusion, we'd like to thank all who've testified tonight. Your comments are very helpful. Thank you. If you'd like to appeal this decision to City Council, you must appeal with staff within 15 days. We'll now move on to Planning Commission hearing for SP 1803 Mid-Valley Intermodal Transfer Center. Tonight, we are holding a public hearing regarding a site plan SP 1802 for the Mid-Valley Intermodal Transfer Center. The meeting will proceed as follows. The required disclosure will be read. Staff will make a presentation, followed by the applicant. Then anyone else who wishes to address the issue will be given the opportunity. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each for testimony. Finally, there will be time for rebuttal by the applicant. Any members of the audience who wish to speak must sign in in order to testify, and commissioners may ask questions of the applicant, staff, or anyone else who testifies. We'll now call the meeting public hearing to order, and Jake, will you please read the statement?
Yes. All persons testifying will be deemed parties to the application and must provide their full name and mailing address. The city zoning code specifies applicable criteria to be relied upon in making a decision. Those criteria and findings of fact are in the city staff report. Public testimony should be limited to criteria and findings of fact or to other city or state land use standards that the person testifying believes apply to the proposed land use action. Failure to raise an issue, in person or in writing, with sufficient detail to afford the hearing body or the applicants an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes appeal to the City Council or Land Use Board of Appeals, or to seek damages in circuit court due to a condition of approval. Before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may ask the Planning Commission for an opportunity to present additional relevant evidence or testimony that is within the scope of the hearing. The hearing's body shall grant the request by scheduling a date to finish the hearing, a continuance, to a time and date certain, or by leaving the record open for additional evidence or testimony.
Thank you. Do any members of the commission wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias? I hear no comment. Does any members of the commission wish to report any site visits or ex parte contact?
I drive by every day.
You drive by it every day?
Drive by, walk by.
I think we all do. We had comments. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the commission to hear this matter? No comment. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the impartiality or ex parte disclosures of any member of the commission? No comment. So we'll go to the staff report. Mr. Straight, please.
Thank you, Chair. Fellow Commissioners, Matt Street presenting the agenda item for staff. The project is located westerly of I-5, east of Old Salem Road, and southerly of Concert Road. The zoning on the site is general industrial. The project is proposing a transfer facility that will move shipping containers from rail to truck and from truck to rail. The applicant is going to give a much more detailed picture of what they're proposing, so I'll keep mine brief here today, but it's proposing a maximum of about 76,000 shipping containers a year. And we've added that as a condition of approval to assure that it's maintaining the impacts that could possibly be associated with that. There are 2 existing structures on site. They're proposing for both of those to remain. It's proposing landscaping, some changes to the off-site rail configurations. That's part of this project. Certainly changes on-site to the track configurations. It's proposing a new truck queuing area, and it's also proposing to use the existing truck queuing area that you see right off of Old Salem Road. It's proposing 2 new water quality basins and a new truck loading area that is going to have a gravel finish underneath it. Now, this slide here shows the entirety of the applicant's property. I wanted to go through this in a little bit of detail because it could be a little bit misleading or confusing from the exhibits that you have in your staff report, because the applicant is calling their project Phase 1, and they don't have anything proposed as Phase 2 yet. And so they're really just trying to say that they're only planning on using a portion of their property for this project. So as you can see here on the slide, this is the entirety of the site. But this crosshatched area here is what they're calling Phase 1, and that's the only place where they're actually proposing any changes to the site as part of this development. Naturally, because we don't have anything shown in the Phase 2 area, any changes they do there are going to have to come before the Planning Commission before they can build or put any kind of projects in that area. So just wanted to clarify that. So again, in order to support the project tonight, we have to ascertain that it meets the criteria from our code. The criteria for a site plan review comes from section 2.400. The project must meet all of the criteria in order to be approved, so we're going to walk through those now, one at a time. The project cannot conflict with the comprehensive plan or the state goals. Now, we have a transportation system plan here in the city, and the transportation system plan, or the TSP, is an extension of our comprehensive plan. And so in reviewing this project, we went through both the comprehensive plan and our transportation system plan. And there were a number of features in our transportation system plan that I wanted to bring to your attention. Our TSP shows a trail along Old Salem Road, and it specifically shows it on the west side of Old Salem Road. That's the applicant's side of the property. The applicant's plans do not actually show this trail on there in any way, shape, or form. However, that trail is required. More specifically, it's required based on section 9.590, goals number 1 and 2, and our industrial policies from our comprehensive plan, policies 1, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, that must be 4.1, 5, 6, 10, and 11, as well as open space and scenic resource policies 1, 6, 7, and 8, and section 9.690 from our parks policies 3 and 7. All of these require that the pedestrian needs and that this trail go in on their side of the property. So we've added a condition of approval to the project requiring that they give us a proposal to show exactly where that trail is going to be on their side of the property, on their side of the street, and then construct that prior to the actual occupancy of the building. Additionally, the project must conform to all the city codes, and based on staff's review, the project meets all those requirements with the possible exception of noise. The applicant's narrative indicated that they felt the noise that was generated from this project would be less than the levels that are required, but there wasn't anything in the record to clarify that or explain how that was going to be met. So we've added a condition of approval indicating that a noise study be done, and we've designed that to be submitted a few months after they open. That way they can actually measure the noise that's coming from the project, so they have a better idea of what that noise level is going to be. We're going to review it at that point and make sure that it conforms.
Can I ask a question at this point?
Why don't you wait until he finishes? Why don't you wait till he finishes?
Now, the project also cannot have a negative impact on traffic flow or pedestrian or bike traffic as well. The applicant submitted a traffic study, which was distributed as part of our staff report. And the traffic study actually concluded with a few recommendations, one of which was to reconfigure the striping at Old Salem Road and Century Road to be a little bit safer and more conducive to truck traffic. And so we've added that as a condition of approval in the project. The other one I wanted to go over, the other recommendation from the traffic study, I wanted to add a little bit more detail here because it can get a little bit confusing. So this blow up here you see behind me shows basically the driveway that comes in next to the truck queuing area along Old Salem Road. And the study said that that can be used for now, but what it did say was that when phase 2 is developed, and you can see phase 1 and phase 2 on the screen behind me, that when phase 2 is developed, that the configuration for passenger vehicles, not trucks, just passenger vehicles, should be reconfigured through the property so that it can use Arnold Road and line up with that in order to bring the cars in a safer manner. And so we've added that as a condition of approval as well, but that condition of approval won't kick in until they develop the other half of the property at some point. Now, the study didn't address pedestrian traffic at all, but we feel that it can meet the criteria for pedestrian safety as long as they comply by building that trail that's required from our comprehensive plan. Now, the criteria requirement also includes that signage and lighting not create any negative impacts on the surrounding area. The applicant isn't proposing any kind of signage except on-site signage, and they gave us this exhibit to say exactly where all those on-site signs are going to be. Those are usually much smaller directional signs for people using the facility and certainly won't create any kind of impacts. There is lighting proposed on the site, and the lighting is all going to be on-site, not shining off-site, so it shouldn't impact any neighbors. And we're going to talk a little bit more about lighting when we talk about the standards in this project. Adequate utilities are available on the site because it was previously a paper mill site, so you can imagine the utilities are quite robust on there. It's certainly enough for the applicant's proposal. There are no specific drainage ways on the site, but there are 2 additional water quality basins proposed on the site. Conceptually, those water quality basins look fine to our city engineer, but she's requested a little bit more detail from them, some calculations and some more detail. And so we've added a condition of approval that they provide us that detail prior to using the site. Lastly, the site must not result in any kind of hazards. These hazards are specifically listed in our code in section 2.140. They generally are nuisance kind of hazards that may result. With this project, since they're just moving shipping containers, we're not anticipating any kind of hazards. However, we do have over 300 truck trips a day that will now be coming from this facility that weren't coming from this facility before. Those aren't necessarily specific hazards that we're anticipating, but we did want to include it in here to say that we looked into this, and the state and the federal EPA are the ones that regulate the emissions that come from these trucks, and as long as the applicants are proposing with the state and EPA standards, we don't foresee that there's going to be anything on the site that would rise to the level of being one of those hazards. Now, we went through the criteria, but there are also a set of standards from our ordinance, and those standards are tied to the criteria, specifically criteria number 2 that says it has to comply with our code. And so in our staff report, we went through a lot of the different standards that pertain to the site, not every one of them. And so we have conditions of approval that were added in order to make the project comply with a few of those standards that it might not have complied with before. And so I'm just going to go through real quickly where we've added those. Some wetlands are potentially on the site, and so a detailed delineation is required prior to any ground disturbing activity. That wetland delineation will also be sent to the Department of State Lands for them to review and approve prior to any ground disturbing activities on the site. The application is proposing landscaping, but it didn't include a landscape plan. And so we've added a condition of approval prior to the issuance of any building permits. They give us a landscape plan that shows more detail of what they're going to be planting and where. And that landscaping will all be required to be installed prior to actual occupancy of the property. And while lighting was shown in the plans, as we discussed before, it wasn't necessarily clear that those lights are going to provide enough lighting on the site to meet the safety needs for the use of this facility. There are going to be areas on the site where trucks can park overnight. And we didn't have enough information in the application materials to discern if lighting was going to be covering all of those areas. We certainly didn't want darker areas that weren't covered by lighting. And so we've added a condition of approval that asks for a more detailed lighting study that shows us more specifically where those are going to be. And we'll make sure as part of that that they provide enough lighting to cover every bit of the parking area to make sure that the safety needs are met at night and the police can see what's going on in there at any time throughout the night. So with that, staff recommends approval of the application. This concludes my presentation. Myself and the applicants are available for any questions. And again, the applicant has a small presentation he wanted to make on this himself.
And you're Mr. Reese? Reese?
I am.
Okay. Please make your presentation.
Thank you, Chair and members of the commission. My name is David Reese, 321 First Avenue in Albany, Reese and Associates. I represent the applicant in this matter. This is the Lynn Economic Development Group that's bringing forward a proposal for a site plan application in concurrence with an ongoing, very well publicized activity here in Millersburg that the state legislature and ODOT's transportation bill that allocated some funding for 2 locations to be determined through a selection process in the state of Oregon, one in the eastern Oregon portion of the state, and one in the mid-Willamette Valley. And that process has been very rigorous and very detailed, and lots of information presented to define the best locations for such a facility. And if you're not familiar with an intermodal facility, it's a location that allows trucks to bring containers to a site, have them taken off the trailer or take the trailer itself. They can do both, and then place them on a rail car for further transportation. And ODOT and the Oregon Transportation Commission, through the Connect Oregon project, came up with these funds in a way to try to get trucks off the freeway going through Portland and on up to Tacoma and ports that are outgoing as well as receiving. And it's a great opportunity for Millersburg and for the state of Oregon and for the Willamette Valley to have an opportunity to participate in such an activity that will reduce smog and emissions and keep the traffic and safety concerns for our citizens at the forefront, as those trucks who today will leave from as far away as Klamath Falls and try to make it to Tacoma, and it's a 2-day run for them based on the trucking industry's requirements for rest and driving times, and will allow them to make a turn and make a 1-day trip by coming to Millersburg and offing their load and then letting that load get onto a rail for further distribution. Some of the local folks who have expressed an interest and a very keen interest in using this facility have told us that as many today, Christmas tree shippers, different agricultural products in the valley have told us the very same story, that it's 1 trip per truck to go to Tacoma and get their load. But if they can go to the intermodal facility, that same truck driver can make 5 trips to the Albany site. So and today in the newspapers, it's well documented that there are a shortage of truck drivers. And the demand for truck drivers is high. So being able to assist these agricultural businesses with an opportunity to shorten their turns and get these commodities on rail is of the utmost. So with that, we are in the final stages of this process with the Oregon Transportation Commission. As outlined in the process with ODOT, it was a decision to be made in December. That decision was then pushed to February because they brought in an independent group to review the proposals. This site was selected as the site of preference, but there was still some additional questions to be answered. It went to the February meeting, of which so it was recommended by ODOT and by the commission, the Connect Oregon committee that had members that were from the public as well as from ODOT and from the trucking industry that weighed in on these site proposals. And then the third group, there was the Tioga group, that was the independent group, and all of those then forwarded their recommendations to the Oregon Transportation Commission. And the Transportation Commission makes the final decision as to whether or not there'll actually be a facility, or if there is, where will it be located? And at this point, the 2nd of May, I believe it's May 2nd, is the decision date for the Oregon Transportation Commission to finalize the 3 things they asked for were some more economic data to back up how much use this facility would have, and some connections with the rail companies themselves that would actually service the site, whether it be the P&W or Union Pacific. So with that background, and the process being that this is the site that we feel, and a lot of folks in the valley and in the state feel that this is the proper site, and it's one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to take a site that had been very much an economic driver for this community, provide a lot of tax revenues, which brought a lot of services to the city of Millersburg, and when that employer took that away and then decided that rather than sell it and let it again be a fruitful plant, they demolished it. And so as it's sat fallow now for the last 10 years, an opportunity has presented itself that puts us in the driver's seat for a true shovel-ready site. That, in all essence, that's what the paper mill was an area where trucks came in with chips turned into paper, trucks and rail were loaded out with paper, and it went back out. So we're basically reusing the site in a similar fashion with a lot fewer employees, and a lot less infrastructure, and a lot less of all the other things that go with a major plant. So, as you can see, the prior operations for this site were, they ran 24 hours a day, as many as 350 employees. You can see a picture of the site before it was demolished. Actually, a lot of the chips have been removed and moved off-site. This is the 2012, this is a snip actually from the video that you can see of that building right in the center that is about to be imploded. And so that's where we pulled this particular site. Again, lots and lots of buildings, infrastructure, piping, digesters, liquor, all the things that make up what it takes to make paper. Crossing Old Salem Road with some conveyance and some other infrastructure to support the site. And the proposed operations that we have in this, and this is a rendering basically, as you can see, there aren't any buildings. The building that exists is a warehouse that's extremely valuable asset to the site that can be reused for some loadout and some storage, and allow agricultural partners to bring forth their products and store them and ready them for rail loadout. And then the yard itself, so that you can see the green that we've depicted is the actual landscape in area off to the western side of the site. And then we do have some paved and some gravel areas in which the trailers and chassis will be stored and readied for taking containers on and off. And with that, so here's an overview of the site. We pulled this was a large image, so we pulled it in, and I apologize for the resolution on it, but as the previous slide indicated, there's actually only going to need to be 2 employees. We've got it staged based on the traffic study for 10 employees, but it really can be a site that can be run with 2 employees on a shift basis. So, and the work hours are normal work hours, 10-hour days, so not 24/7. And let's go back one, Matt, if you don't mind. So as you can see now, we're looking down on the site. The phase 1, as was indicated in Matt's presentation, and thank you, Matt, I thought you did a great job. And we've worked very closely with the City of Millersburg's planning and engineering staff to put together this site plan to depict really the first part of what will come with the future of this site, and how the economic driver that it may become for the city and for this area. So phase 1 is grade, and the green area that has been colored in, and that shows that we're going to use the existing queuing lanes that come in off of Old Salem Road, so that any arrivals prior to the opening of the shift, and then we'll let them through the gate. They'll come down on existing driveways that are there, so there's no new paving. We'll do some improvements as you go past the existing office building, which we'll use for operations. Although there's not really much of a need for an operations building. That building may actually get partitioned into some other uses later, which would be another site plan. But then they would move south, and I didn't bring them in a pointer, so if you'd like, I can. Can you still hear me? Will it record? Okay.
Yeah.
So I will do this, and most of you can see. So trucks will enter here in queue, but as soon as the gate opens, they actually pass on through. So it's just a driveway, actually come down. We queue in line here where they actually check in with the operator to get their, however it's operated. An RF tag, piece of paper, a ticket, take a number, whatever it is. And then they move into the location where the offloading equipment will then pick up the container and set it off in the storage yard, and then that container, that machine will actually take that container and put it onto a rail car as the rail cars are logistically put together. That's the operation. And a train a week, maybe 2 trains a week would be built, and that would be phase 1. There are some discussions as to whether or not there'll be some modifications, but basically 2 sets of rails that are 2,200 feet, so 4,000 feet of rail to build up about 50 cars. And then they'll be switched and put together in a train and head north and go off to their switches. They could go south, and they could go north, and they could actually go east once they go through some switches in Portland. So with that, the other part of the site plan is the existing parking area that is here, which is indicated in our site plan application as possible overnight truck parking. So it's another opportunity for trucks to get off the freeway. Not go through Portland during the rush hour, get their rest, get their off time, and then get back on and go on up north if they're going to go past. This is only as a convenience. It's not a driver. If I can tell you that you will not make a lot of money parking trucks overnight when they can park for free at Love's, but the overflow then would become an opportunity for this site to have some folks there. Eventually, we utilize the warehouse, a portion of that for the shop and any repairs and any of the equipment that's there. In the second phase, or as it expands, it's possible we build a shop for a little closer to the operation. But at this point, we're not here actually to present an operational plan. We're actually here to present a site plan, and that's what we're trying to do. So, Matt, if one of us needs to click the go. The go button. So we engaged Sandow Engineering for a traffic study and asked Kelly to take a look at the site and compare it to the prior operations to see what levels of service and what impacts there might be with this operation. And just as a summary, there are, currently there's 7 access points on Old Salem Road, and some are for truck, some are for car, et cetera. And what we're planning to do is reduce those to use just 3 accesses to Old Salem Road. And this will limit limiting the access points is going to mitigate traffic impacts on Old Salem Road. And Old Salem Road was, designed for this industrial truck traffic. And one of the conclusions that Kelly came to, and if you've read the packet and you've looked at it, she talks about the off-site impacts, and she utilized not only her own research, but the Love's Travel Stop and the traffic study that was done for that particular location to see what might be some mitigation that's necessary, or what the levels of service. And all of the intersections that were reviewed have sufficient capacity. There's none of them that fail, and none of them need any mitigation. However, Kelly did make the recommendation that restriping at Century Drive and at the Murder Creek on-ramp, or interchange, so to speak, would be something that would provide safer maneuvers for trucks, and that would be one of the things that we offer up for mitigation in this project. Next slide. So we look at this site plan review application and look at it as an economic partnership. In 2009, the tax base in Millersburg was approximately $500 million. And a year later, after the closure of the mill, the tax base went down to $346 million. That represents, based on $1.70 per thousand, $244,800 in loss of tax revenue for the city of Millersburg and the services that it can provide. And what we want to bring to the forefront is that Millersburg is unique in that it, for better or for worse, was an agricultural area and an industrial area that has then grown into becoming a town, a little city. And as it grows, more and more folks are going to be moving to Millersburg. It's a wonderful place to live and to raise your family, but it's still made up of 50% of industrial tax base, where other cities' industrial tax base is about 20%. So the economic partnership here is that the site's ready. It's not a greenfield site. The site's ready. The site's been used for industrial and/or commerce and business for a long, long time. And we propose that this will actually bring some fruit to the city of Millersburg as opposed to some negatives. So let's put the site back to work. With that, that's the end of my presentation, but I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Dave, one of the things that I haven't seen here is ODOT's got a proposed traffic plan. I think it's for a lot of people here, the impact of traffic on our roads. How come, Matt, we haven't discussed the future?
We gave this project to ODOT to review, and one of the only comments they had is that they wanted the ability to opt out of the mitigations that were proposed in the traffic study, they agreed with the traffic study, but they said once they go to stripe it, they want the ability to say, you know what, that's not needed, we're okay leaving it the way it is. And so we added that to the condition, but that was really the extent of ODOT's comments, and they sent it to 4 or 5 different ODOT people. I was on the phone with the ODOT rail and everybody else, and in the end, the comments they actually provided to us were very slim. Just comments on the traffic study more than anything else.
And so this is just a pipe dream, the widening of the freeway, the overpasses?
No, that, I can speak to that, and Matt certainly can too. It's definitely a plan that they'd like to have brought forward, but it's not funded at this point. And so we've actually taken that into account on the site design to make sure that we've allowed for where that particular overpass and where those modifications might take place. But we don't know that, we know that they're not on the horizon in the next 5 years, and it could be 10 or 15 until they become funded.
Yeah, this project wouldn't preclude their expansion. Matter of fact, it would probably help the site in the end significantly.
Well, in some of the first presentations that we heard about this project, ODOT was getting on board because it was a big benefit for them to get the trucks off the road, and that was the goal, the whole idea. So why haven't you got some sort of commitment out of them?
No,
Or the interchange, for example, what Commissioner here's talking about. It seems like they're backing out of the whole thing together.
Well, I think we're talking about 2 separate items, actually. The interchange, the new freeway interchange that would be proposed is on the horizon to solve a couple of other things that are inherent to the I-5 structure. We still will take the Murders Creek exit and use that exit and the Jefferson exit. And those would be the 2 access points to the site until that new interchange is built. When that interchange is built, it will greatly, we'll actually revamp the site and take access coming off the north for that new leg. But at this point, we'll utilize the 2 locations that are there. When we say take trucks off the freeway, we're taking trucks off the freeway that want to venture north and pass through right now. They pass through.
Okay.
Did I not answer your question?
Pretty much, yeah.
The truck queuing, the
Yes.
lineup for these folks is coming from the south. Is there anything being done to force the trucks to all come in from the south and to even leave towards the south rather than coming back through town? I mean, we can have one-way driveways
And it certainly can.
I understand the
Yes.
traffic study,
Mhm.
but, we've grown population-wise a lot since the mill was here before, and I understand 200 trucks before, and we're talking about 200 trucks now, but we've added 4 or 5 times as many cars. They're trying to make trips every day, and just coming out of some of these Clearwater, 54th, it could be a challenge now. That's before 200 trucks.
I believe.
I can see that coming in, this should certainly be coming in from the south. It is going south to north on your queuing to begin with.
I would agree with you.
So hopefully, we're not making a U-turn there.
No, I would agree with you, and I think that operationally, that would become inherent as the site gets used to it, that could be posted with a no left turn, no truck left turn on.
So we have no intention of an island or anything to prevent it, to out and out prevent it.
It's, the way it's queued right now, you definitely need to come from the south to come in. At this point, the Old Salem Road has not been, we hadn't put one of those in for a design feature, or as the traffic engineer stated, that in a phase 2, it would be better to line it up with Arnold, so it's at an intersection.
Yeah,
And-
but that was for the cars going in there, not the trucks.
Correct.
And you're saying there's 2 employees a day. I don't think the cars are going to impact.
No, I don't think so either. I agree
But I am
with you.
concerned about the trucks.
Okay.
Coming back to the north, some coming from the south from the truck stop, but I don't think they'll do it twice.
No, I don't think so either.
But are we doing anything to mitigate that so that we force them to come from the south and to leave?
Well, the
from
queuing
south?
area does that.
The queuing area.
The queuing area does that, because they can't make a U-turn to get into that queuing.
That's what I was trying to say, that through the operational instructions, if you're coming to the site, you take this exit and bring
So have you presented a site operational plan to the city? So,
And it could be, yes.
I mean,
We have not.
okay.
At this
yeah,
point.
I mean, I think that would be, we could see what's going on. And then another concern I have is the truck parking overnight. There's some ORSs on idle time. And if the site's only going to be occupied with 2 employees, are the truck drivers just going to pull in there and let their trucks run all night so they can sleep? Or are they going to be required to have APUs?
No, in the narrative that we presented, that will actually be, there'll be a person on site for that particular purpose as a monitor, so to speak.
I don't understand the 2-employee thing. Does the railway have more employees? I mean, who's,
Train driver drives it up, a guy in the picker puts the thing on, and he's gone.
Can we go back to that transloader
You
facility?
need a lot of people. Train pulls in with the conductor. or
With
the
that
engineer.
photograph of that transloader.
Crane takes the thing, one guy operating.
Dave, well, he's looking that up just so we get back to the stacking lane, having lived out here since
They're just guessing at
'76.
this point.
The paper mill always came in from the south.
Right.
Once they learned that they had to be stacked that way, and I never did see a problem the whole time I was here watching during the paper mill. So your queue, first of all, I was concerned about the traffic plan for the freeway. As far as the stacking, I don't see there being a problem for that, once they learn the system.
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. It'll become, a standard operating procedure that all notes, if you're arriving at the site, take this exit to the south, and then, or the south exit, come from the south to the site because of the queuing lanes. I agree with you. So this is a I forget the name of the equipment. One person driving that equipment's plucking these containers off and setting them to the side. And the second one is checking trucks as they come through. There's not much more to the operation, because when those trucks are all offloaded and now they're off on their way and there isn't a truck in the queue, they're building trains by using the same machine to take those containers and set them on rail cars.
Well, how many trucks a day are you forecasting?
We have the economic folks who put together the forecast for this site and took a survey of different users and possible clients, came up with, at the top end, 350 is used for the traffic study. I think we have 240 or something like that that's actually in the economic analysis for that. But we're planning on 300, and that's the...
But you're not going to have that enough rail cars to do those in one day.
We don't, so this is an area where we store the
You're going to store them
containers.
and then move them the second time?
Yes.
So this cuts down time for the people to move them to the rail car. I don't see how time-wise it's feasible to do all this with 2 people. So anyway.
And that's why we've allocated 10 people, that's why we put 10 people into the proposal, because we don't see it that way either, but we're being told a couple of people can run the site.
So Dave, what percentage is coming from the south? Have you done a study on what percentage of containers are coming from the south and from the north? Because I would assume most of them will be coming from the south.
80 to 90% are going to come from the south.
How many of these
what's on
facilities?
the trucks?
What's that?
What is the product on the truck? I know it's supposed to be primarily agriculture, but, we talked about hazards a little bit.
Whatever products would be allowed on any other facility, at a way station or on the highway with the proper paperwork. I don't know. It could be alfalfa, it could be straw bales, it could be peas, it could be pumpkin stuff to go up to make pumpkin pies. I'm not sure.
Chinese sunglasses.
But exactly, I don't know, but I'm sure that it will meet all this. There's nothing being processed. Everything that comes into this site will come in a container at the container site. The warehouse might be some truck storage of some materials such as, could be some grass seed. I'm not sure. Most folks have move beyond that, where they're hauling directly from the truck to the grain elevator, so to speak, and this isn't a grain elevator, so they already have containerized most all of those products at their facilities, and then put them on a truck and headed them out, and they were heading for Tacoma or Pasco or south to LA.
Accommodations for refrigerated units also, haven't we?
Yes, and we've, that's what part of our plan was for the truck storage, is to put in some reefer plugs so that folks can plug in, and then they'll be taken care of. It'll be a 3 or 4 day process to turn, so you'll build a train every 3 to 4 days and have those switched out, and then have more containers come in. That's why it's an expansive site, because there's lots of storage as the mix and match as you're putting these together. We don't anticipate unit trains at this point, but unit trains would be single commodity, 102 cars, and that would be, there might be a peak season where there could be part of that go on. The Christmas tree shippers tell us that they're very anxious to see this site so they can get their products out. It actually it would increase their ability to ship more trees by using this site because of the long turns. Anyway, those are all operational things. So we could go back to the site plan and ask any more questions. I'm not the operator. I'm just hired to do get land use entitlements and the engineering to get it
I think
done.
they kind of tie hand in hand.
No, they do, and I'm happy to answer them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to push them aside.
Site SOP needs to be
Right.
presented to the city.
Matt, I
The
have a
detailed
question.
one.
Going back to one I tried earlier, what is ordinance 94?
Is that the noise ordinance?
The noise ordinance.
Yeah, that's the noise ordinance.
But where does that exist? I've looked for it and can't find it. What I'm finding is ADQ ordinances that cover new use on old facilities.
Noise ordinance is in the Management City Code.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a,
ADQ ordinances would override that, then wouldn't they?
I'm
They're
not
very
sure. I don't
specific
know.
to new uses of old facilities.
I don't know.
Okay.
I would have to read that.
I got another question for you.
Yes, sir.
Until this would get up and running, who would subsidize it as far as finances goes?
The Lynn County has already.
Till you reach a break-even point, let's say.
Lynn County has put it in writing that they will subsidize for 4 years to a number of, I don't know, a couple $100,000 or whatever it is for 4 years till it gets stabilized and gets it at its point.
And can you give us any idea what financial advantage this is to Millersburg as far as tax base or anything? Can you give us any numbers?
I cannot. Because we had a paper mill that had lots and lots of pipe and expensive equipment and
But
so
it's
forth.
gone.
And it's gone. So the 350 million is now something.
Yeah.
And it's 8, 10, 12, I don't know what it is. What this would add is probably another 10 or 15 to begin with, and that's just in phase 1. What comes before you after that will be some other numbers, and I don't know what those will be.
To add to that question, though, I think John Pascone could probably speak to that. In the past, we had more interest of businesses wanting to locate here, that should bring jobs, being close to an intermodal station.
Yes.
So I think this is just the first step. It's not the only step.
Absolutely. There's lots of serious interest from folks who want to move their businesses here and be a part of it. I will go back to one condition of approval that Matt brought forward, and that was the lighting plan. And we may have overlooked that for reasons of convenience, because, as I said, we're reusing the site. So we're reusing the site's parking lot lights that are there that were in place at the time. If they're not operational, we're going to get them operational. But we'll bring you a lighting plan. It's not a problem.
David, I do have one off-the-cuff question. Will this happen to relieve any of the traffic congestions on Queen Street? That's
No.
what I figured you'd say, but I was hoping you'd say.
No, I wish I could say yes, but no. I don't see that going away.
Yeah, but drive to Portland 2 or 3 times a week, and you'll find out why we need this here.
Yeah.
Every traffic jam, trucks are in the middle of it.
Well, thanks, Dave.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to call for public testimony now. Craig Ziegenfeller of Ziegenfall, I'm sorry to pronounce that. I'll get it right.
That's Craig Ziegenhagel, 4605 Northeast Granite Avenue in Millersburg. I'm going to skip over some of this because it's been addressed, but I've been indifferent to this facility as long as it is well-planned. Planning will be crucial for the livability of the city. 300 trucks today could be 500 trucks in just a few years. You add phase 2, God knows how many more trucks we're going to have. If those trucks are allowed free access points to the facility, many would exit at I-5, exit 238, perhaps some at 235. Many would stop at Love's, get food, take their shower, and be possibly back and forth trips between the facilities for those staying in the evening. I believe the best scenario is a direct exit off I-5, but that doesn't seem like that's going to be possible. The City and Planning Commission has the power to regulate access to a property as well as other criteria. You and the city must insist on an immediate freeway access if possible, and if not, control the access from the south and also exiting only to the south. And I would just add that I would plead with the Planning Commission to have bulb outs, curbing, so that no tractor and or truck and trailer can leave that facility and head north, only passenger cars. Otherwise, you will have truckers spend the night there, drop their trailer, drive their tractor out, and go to Love's again for food, showering, and other facilities there. I respectfully hope that you stand your ground. Otherwise, noise, exhaust pollution, and traffic through town would have a negative impact on residences and likely decrease our property values. Please think outside the box in planning and permitting of this facility. And I do have some suggestions that I'll pass across for you. One, green space and landscaping for dust mitigation, visual appearance, and noise for the entire length of the property, whether it's phase 1 or phase 2. Old Salem Road access, as I discussed, basically forcing all the trucks to get to the facility and leave the facility using exit 235, which many people would know is the Murders Creek area, rather than exit 238 up by Love's. Shipping containers, you should consider how high they can be stacked at this facility. The picture exhibits that. You should limit the amount of units to 2, 3, 4, whatever you decide. They're typically 10.5 feet in height each. Otherwise, we could have 50, 60-foot high walls of metal boxes at the facility. Stipulation of hours of operation not to exceed 9 p.m. Consideration to install sidewalks and bike lanes, it sounds like that's in the works. And today it's agricultural products. It sounds like anything could be transferred to this facility, so there should be a stipulation that no hazardous, flammable, or explosive materials should be transferred to this facility ever. In addition, the City Council should consider a complete ban of semi-truck and semi-tractors parked anywhere on any city street or city right-of-way. And that should be done now with appropriate signage. And if we don't have a Jake brake ordinance, we need an ordinance to that effect.
Yes.
I think the main thing is to just think ahead in the future what's going to happen. I would just end this that we owned and lived on some property that a transfer type facility was built next to us. And it was supposed to be just compressed hay bales. And then they would take a hay bale, make it about a 1 by cube by compressing it, and ship it off to China. When they first got the conditional use, they said it'd be about 6 trucks a day. About 10 years later, it turned into 35 to 50 trucks a day. And even though the conditional use permit said only 6 trucks per day, there was nothing we could do about it. So I just hope that the Planning Commission of the city can look into the future, what else may develop here, adding phase 2, to try and mitigate the impact on the residences here, and especially the traffic. We have 3 main roads to get all the residential people onto Old Salem, and it's getting harder now to merge onto Old Salem Road. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Craig, I'd just like to answer one question. I think everybody should look at the future road plan to where they can get the trucks on and off the road.
I'm aware of that, and I asked that at a meeting last week or 2 weeks ago here at the city, and apparently there is no funding or no plans for an interchange or improvements.
But at least a thought down the road is what I was...
Yeah, but we need to deal with this now. So, thank you.
You'll make this part of the record.
You're going to make this part of the record? Yeah. Jason Coda?
He already spoke on the previous.
Oh, okay. How about, is that Bob Nelson? Please come forward. And state your address, please.
It's 2878 Levi Lane. I know the idea is to help Portland out, getting rid of traffic and pollution and noise and all that, but guess who gets all that? Us. What's in it for the citizens of Millersburg? Whoever this guy was, talking about the tax money lost in the paper mill shutting down. How many hundreds of houses have been built in this town? And the tax revenue off of them, I bet you offset what we lost on the paper mill. I built a house here 3.5 years ago. Had that paper mill been still in operation, I would not have built in Millersburg. If this reload station would have been in operation, I would not have built in Millersburg. I just don't see where it's a benefit to the people. It don't sound like it's going to be a profitable deal for how many years? Going to spend a bunch of money and maybe someday make some money. That land could be used for all kinds of manufacturing plants that would not be near as polluting and noisy as this reload station is. I don't know how many, you talk about 1 or 2 trains coming in there. Well, we hear train horns all the time from our house, and we're a ways away from there. They have to blow their horns 4 times. It's a railroad law. And I don't want to see a whole bunch of trains coming in here laying on their horns any time of the day or night. I don't know. I don't see where it's a benefit to us. I'm dead against it.
Thank you.
Yep, that's all I got to say about this big deal.
Is it Penny or Denny?
Denny Spilby. I really didn't find my name, something that I thought I was going to talk about after I've listened to it, I will. I've lived in Millersburg. Okay, I'll sit down.
And give us your name and address.
Okay, my name is Denny Spilby. My address is 3226 Siuslaw.
Okay.
Okay, and I've lived in Millersburg since 1952, on and off. And I work for Timber Byproducts. I delivered chips to the paper mill when it was here, to the Duraflake plant. I've traveled up and down Old Salem. I used to walk it. I know the country by the back of my hand. So when I listen to somebody come through this neighborhood and because they bought a brand new house out here, I did the same thing, and they think this is not an industrial area. That's kind of crazy. When you drive out of Albany on Old Salem Road, all you're going to see is industrial area for the whole way. So it's obvious that everything on the east side of Salem Avenue is industrial. Trailer houses, trucking parking lots. You've got Gordon, or where Gordon used to be. You've got Gardner down here. That's where Willamette Industries used to be. You've got all kinds of sites down here. So it's obvious that you better take every opportunity you can. Talking to DOT people, I know it's in the plans in the future of taking Contour and running Contour out to I-5. They may not do it, but if they do, that'll make an access easier for phase 2 on this intermodal or reload facility here. Would make it easier for them to come in and out. And it would solve a lot of the problems on Old Salem. But watching Love's, after Love's come in, I was really concerned about Love's. But Love's hasn't made any difference at all to the traffic that's coming through, very few. The only time it is when you've got a pileup and somebody diverts traffic onto Old Salem. Then you have a pileup. The other thing that I know that has been talked about, I don't hear any more about it, is if you run Contour straight through and cut a bridge across over to Spring Hill, you've got another access out of here. That's something that can happen in the future. I don't hear them talking about it now, but it is an access. The other thing is for anybody that lives out in the new housing developments, there's no reason why, if you get really concerned of the heavy truck traffic here, that you can't detour over to Deaver Corner and go right out and hit Deaver Corner at that access to the freeway, and it takes you either way. It can take you into Albany just as fast as it can as sitting out here in line and waiting for 15 or 20 trucks. It isn't going to take you more than 10 minutes to go that way. So I'm in favor of opening this up and letting these people come in. They're talking about 4 years until they want to change, maybe 5 years, but you're talking an income or more tax money for Millersburg, and you're also talking an opportunity for more people to have jobs in this neighborhood. And if you got more jobs, it's going to increase everything that's going around here. So I say I am in pro of letting these people go ahead and making this place get back to work. If you don't have jobs, you're going to have these homeless people living more and more that I hear people talking about out here at the parks, and we don't need that. And that's my statement.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time, for or against?
I would have, but I'm not signed in, so.
Well, you can come up, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm listening.
Just give us your name and address.
Yes, Peter Spencer, 4726 Terry Lane. It's basically just, there's not a lot that I understand, because I've only been lived here about 7 years, so I don't have the real space of it, but mainly my main concern is the traffic. Just a real-time example, my wife just yesterday just came at the kind of the wrong time of the day, I guess, she's entering Century Drive from Salem Avenue, or Salem, Old Salem, and she had to wait quite a long time. She was like, this is just with regular traffic. If we have the trucks here, it's going to be, a lot worse. And I think the main concern that I have is that really, we can't really real-time figure out, we can estimate how traffic's going to be, but we really can't know exactly how traffic could be okay, but actually it could be not okay, and it could be really, really, really not okay. So it's risky. To me, it's just risky. I'm against this coming in. I mean, I appreciate, the people who are wanting to bring it up. I appreciate their points, but I just think mainly on the traffic, and a different kind of traffic. This is maybe a little smaller concern, but it's a big concern to me. If you have truck parking, you have trafficking, and that's just a point. That's a cultural point, I guess. But I don't like that. I don't like that kind of activity. I don't like the opportunity for that kind of activity. So the bottom line is that, and you can prove statistically that when you do have depots, you have more of that kind of activity. So that's kind of a side note, but ultimately it is the traffic, I should say, So anyway, I wrote some things down here, but that's my main concern is definitely the traffic. So anyway, I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to please come forward?
Lisa Lambert, 3268 Millersburg Drive, and I've lived here for 30 years. And I would like to see the industrial area used, be back in business and create jobs for Millersburg and the surrounding area, because that's what we really lost with the mill. And this proposal doesn't offer any jobs. And so that, and along with the impact of the traffic, especially with the future development, it's hard to say how much volume that's going to be in the future. And so between not offering employment opportunity and increase traffic with not really any expansions of overpasses or anything at this point, I would probably be opposed to it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward? Would the applicant like rebuttal? We might have another question for you.
I don't really have anything to rebut. People have perceptions and people have realizations, and they're all their own, and they're all true. So I don't rebut that if it's a traffic concern, it's a traffic concern. If, traffic routing from the south, and we've already covered that, I think getting trucks to route the right way and using operating procedures to do that. So I really don't have anything to rebut that would, would be of any value other than to say I feel for folks who change is change. And I would say to Ms. Lambert that this is phase one. And this could be, for better or worse, it could be something that brings 400 or 500 jobs in the next 10 years with 4 or 5 or 6 different facilities that want to be built and revitalize the entire area. Remember, this is phase one. This is utilizing a portion of the site. And other properties, the city of Millersburg has property that's up for sale as well. And this could or could not impact whether that brings folks, attracts folks to the site. That's enough rebuttal. Any more questions you might have of me?
Well, I'd like to ask you this.
Okay.
Instead of using traffic studies that would go back to 2008 and some of the other dates, why didn't you do an actual traffic study and take into account all the homes that are being built now, the future traffic we're going to have just from the residents and everybody else? Why didn't you do that?
Well, in actuality, Mr. Chair, we actually did use what we were able to do, since the Love's truck stop was so recent, we were able to use that traffic study, which accounted for all the neighborhoods and all the homes that are here today, and then applied the truckload that we would have for this facility to put into the mix. So that was what Kelly Sandow did when she did do the traffic study. So that was the evaluation that she undertook. She did not do traffic counters. We just relied on data from within the last year on the traffic study that was done for Love's.
Any more questions?
I have one more question for Matt. The walking trails, bike paths that you're requiring along the edge of the property, you're going to have trucks coming in and going out across that. Do you think that trail might be better placed across the street?
No, it's a good point, and we didn't specify where the trail needed to be on the applicant's property. We're really just looking to make sure that pedestrians can get from the southern point of the property to the northern. We're fully anticipating that trail might meander through their property and away from the trucks, which is perfectly acceptable to us. But we left that open on purpose so that we and the applicants can work together to come up with a plan that we think will get people from point A to point B safely.
So I would like to rebut that particular point, because we as the applicant felt that it would be in the best interest to have the trail on the other side, on the west side of Old Salem Road. There's an existing sidewalk for the most part already there.
It kind of seems to make sense.
However, I say this in jest, you can't fight City Hall because the transportation system plan calls for it to be on the east side. So we do have, this is a nice compromise. Rather than reconfigure those truck queues and put it out and squeeze the pedestrians in between the traffic on Old Salem Road and the trucks queuing up or the truck lane, we're going to use the trail and bring it onto the property so they can actually pass through. So it is a compromise.
Along the freeway instead.
Yeah, we'll run them, no, we'll just put them a little, it was in that green space. Actually, you can see it along the landscaping. There is where we plan to do it. So it's a path.
Did I hear?
Any more questions of them?
Any more questions from the audience?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, now hold on a minute.
From here.
Okay. So, we're not going to take questions of the audience yet. The audience can come up and make comments if they want to. So,
Okay, I misunderstood. It's okay. The audience, if you have a statement to make, you can't ask questions, but you can make a statement.
You will need to come up and okay. So
Thank you, please.
Thank you.
My name is Gary Keene. I live off of Clearwater. And my statement is I'm looking forward to seeing a site plan on how the vehicles will actually be running, Phase 1 and Phase 2, according to the same thing what John was talking about.
Thank you. We'll get through. Please.
Jesse Dawkins, I live on 3412 Clearwater. A lot of people have been concerned about the lack of employees and the amount of truck traffic. You know, you gotta look beyond this one site, because they're gonna be probably doing business with Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, which is out of Salem, their distribution center, the Lowe's distribution center, the Target distribution center, you know, and that's all income for the Lynn County area. And that's going to benefit not only the city of Millersburg, but the entire state, and help create jobs for everybody, which is what, you know, this site's meant to do.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Answer any other comments outside that? From the public, any other comments?
And yet, please come forward.
My name's Renita Mendez, and I live off Luquemute. And my only concern is about security. If containers start being stacked up over there, or as there is more business through that area, I just would want to make sure that the neighborhoods are safe, and that security is patrolling that area for everybody and our families. I don't want taggers to start coming around and try, I mean, those containers, that's what happens, you know. I've lived in big cities like that. And so I just want it to be kept safe and secured for our families.
Thank you.
Let's keep going. Any other comments out there?
Any more comments?
Okay, now ask Mr. Reese if he wants any rebuttal as to what was saying.
Any more rebuttal?
So can I have a clarification?
Yes.
Clarification. On the gentlewoman was talking about the safety. Now, the site is locked, right, for the other 14 hours of the day? Yeah, I know.
The site will be secured, whether the overnight trucking will allow gates to, trucks to pass through. The security person who will be on site 24/7 will be there to monitor that.
There's a security person.
Yes, it will be habitated.
It's their advantage to have one. Pardon? It's their advantage to have one.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we can close the public hearing and close testimony, and then you need to deliberate.
Okay. Okay, we're going to close public hearing and public testimony, and we will converse among ourselves. So, discussion?
I agree, we need to funnel traffic from the south. Obviously, if you're going into the site, you can't make that turn. So it makes sense that we funnel the traffic back out to the south. I don't know whether that's a condition we can put on it. And I disagree with the overnight parking and the idle time of the trucks. Just because you can, ORS 825.605 is, you're not supposed to have a truck idle over 5 minutes in a 1 hour period if it's not doing anything. There are some exceptions to that rule, of course. But
Yeah, if the planning commission wishes to add any conditions of approval in order to meet the criteria, that's completely acceptable.
And I know we're not talking about a site plan, I know we're talking about approval of the property, but they go hand in hand, because that's what the community is requesting.
Now, since you're up in that corner, how's Love's doing?
Huh?
Love's keeping you awake at night?
You know,
The trucks?
Last night, the trucks were pretty hopping last night, but I'm awake at 4:30 in the morning, so.
And he's a truck driver,
but,
so.
Yeah.
Being a paper mill
I'm just
site
curious, he's worried about it, he lives up there.
is in an industrial area, I'd have to say the closest house is 3/4 mile away. A reefer unit And again, we were talking about noise ordinance to build a wall or something. I know in residential areas, using grocery stores, which I am well aware of, when they would deliver and apartments would be right behind it. And then they had idle time, but I guess I kind of disagree on the idle time one.
Well, I didn't make that rule.
Well, so anyway, it's just.
Yeah, I mean,
The closest home outside the city is 1,400 feet away. The closest home inside the city is 2,000 feet away.
well, and it's not about the noise of the idle time, it's about the emissions of the idle time, because we're all about emissions. I mean, I'm in the trucking business, and, you know.
Isn't that control?
Huh?
Don't they tell you what you can do and can't do?
Well, that's what he's saying.
Absolutely.
But those overnight trucks aren't going to pay attention. They're
Yeah,
just
they aren't
in there
paying
to
attention
tell them
to
to
that.
turn it off.
So the overnight guys don't have to apply the
Hey,
rules.
one at a time, please.
So, yeah, I mean, I could rattle on for hours about it, but, yeah, I mean, most of those trucks are free emission trucks that are gonna be in there. The farmers run free emission trucks, that's just what they do. So, Tier 4 motors run at about 98% cleaner than the old trucks do. And if you let a truck sit there and run, it's gonna send NOx out into the air. So, I disagree with having overnight parking there. I guess that's what I'm saying.
But I'm seeing all kinds of pushback from people on, they're upset because there's trucks parked along Old Salem, because the trucks have no place to go, because Love's is full. And I'm seeing it as a place for them to go and overnight and be off the road and out of people's hair. I mean, that's my opinion.
So that's another use other than a reload facility.
But that's what they're proposing.
It was part of their project description.
Yeah.
Part of it is the trucks come in, say from Ashland, and all of a sudden they get here at 8 o'clock. They're, if they can go in and get ready to be unloaded, now where are they gonna go? They're gonna go down the road, and they're gonna find a place, a convenient place, if you don't have a place for them to park. But you could have I agree with you, you could turn the motors off or have a. Yeah, I agree with, I was thinking of even reefer units when you said that.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about just idle time.
Well, that'd be fine, I agree with that, but I still think that'd be a great place, because I'm well aware of what, I know that Hendricks, down there with, and they got trucks parking in their lot, and they're open 24/7. Their guys come to work and can't get the truck out. So, my personal feeling.
And I'm not opposed to it by any means, I just think that we need to have some control and a site plan to understand what's going on.
We've got an idea here.
I'm sorry, he asked me to be able to put this out. One condition that we could do, and I'll run this past Matt, is that you could amend the conditions to say that the noise regulations or any noise emitted there will comply with state and federal noise regulations, in particular under DEQ.
Well, I think you mean air quality, not noise.
Well, no, because then I'm going to get to the EPA issues on EPA for the air quality. But I'm talking about also about the noise regulations. We just have it now under Ordinance 94. But there must be some requirements that they're going to need to comply with, or if there are, have that as a condition that they comply with state and federal noise requirements, as well as any state and federal emissions standards. You know, that could satisfy.
That's all right. They're already regulated.
Well, they are regulated, but if in fact you're saying that the people parking at nighttime are not going to adhere to those standards, then I think some enforcement action would at least be, could at least be taken, if in fact that is a concern of yours.
I mean, I'm just saying that the community.
He's going out to check it.
We could also add a requirement for no idling signs throughout the parking area.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, maximum time idling signs,
Right, yeah.
I have a concern with how high containers are stacked. We beat the sign ordinances to death over how high the signs were going to be, and now we're going to stack containers 60 feet in the air.
Still shorter than
Oh, we
ours.
could build.
It is, but we were talking about limiting signs to 12 feet at one point, and I think we spent an hour on
There
it.
was a 150-foot tower there.
No question. No question.
Yeah, I think that was one of the main distinctions. We thought about the stacking, and we even thought about adding some screening requirements to try and screen those stacked shipping containers, but in the end, we arrived at the conclusion that it's an industrial area. The industrial use before it had 150-foot towers, and so stacking them there wouldn't be inconsistent with the development that surrounds the area or inconsistent with people's expectations of an industrial development. Now, that doesn't mean the Planning Commission can't say you can't go over a certain height. You absolutely could, but we would have to tie that back to a criteria to make it consistent with the surrounding development.
That might be a question that we could ask them. They might not even have any reason to stack them more than too high.
The machines might not be able to go that high, yeah, I know.
I'm in the lift equipment business, and without cranes, you can't go much higher.
And no cranes are proposed as part of this project, I asked them specifically. That's true.
That's true.
Once again, I just like to see that as condition.
Well, Commissioner Sullivan, let's talk about that a little bit more, because I'm a little bit fuzzy on that. Are you asking for an operations plan before you're ready to make a motion on the project, or are you asking for a condition of approval that staff review and approve a site operations plan? Okay. No problem. Make sure to clarify in there what you want us to look for in that operational plan, too. That way we know what we're looking for. But we can make a condition of approval that requires one. Would you want that to be submitted prior to occupancy or prior to any building permit issuance or within a year of operation? Okay.
So what are you trying to do, John? I'm just
You know,
curious.
any facility like that has an SOP, and, I mean,
Yeah.
it's required that you have a plan to know what you're going to be doing and how operations is going to flow and the amount of trucks that you're going to have in there and how high material is going to be stacked. This isn't something that's...
So you're just asking for not a whole lot more, I mean, they gave us a lot of that. I'm not saying that you're wrong, okay, don't get me wrong.
No,
but,
that's fine.
But you're asking for more information is what you're...
Yeah, I mean, we need to know how high the stuff's going to be stacked. I mean,
What else is it that, I don't know,
I
I'm
think
just
truck idle
asking.
time is a big deal. I think making sure that we have security on there, if we're going to have it be an overnight truck stop, you know? So, I mean,
Then we might bring up all those rules to all the other factories.
yeah.
Okay.
I would like
What are
to...
they doing for them? Make them all do it.
Odd.
Okay.
It's not out of the ordinary to ask for this. I mean, before I go into the burn facility in Portland, or in Brooks, I require to have a site operational plan to look at, so we know what to do in case of an emergency. So,
So
you know,
basically, it's just their
back-
standard operating
Yeah,
procedure for the...
standard operating plan.
I would like a condition added,
Yeah, I don't know.
comply with all state and federal noise and emission regulations. I mean,
Got
that
it.
just makes sense.
What would happen if we didn't include
Local, state, and federal.
Local, state, and federal.
They'll have to give that to the fire department and other places anyway. So
Right.
they're going to have it. It's,
They probably already have it,
well,
or most of it, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we don't.
Well, I was
have
just
it.
my only question was, I was just trying to figure out what more information were you wanting, that's all. That's what I was asking.
I think the city needs to have the ability to review that and ask questions and, you know.
I have a list here so far for the ops plan that should include maximum height of the shipping containers, truck idling time, security, and traffic patterns is what I have so far.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
That's what you're looking for?
Mhm.
I'm good with that.
And then did you get his request for a condition of...
Yes. Yeah, I have 3 conditions of approval so far: to add signs in the truck parking area that outline exactly what the maximum idling times that are allowed. That's to be put up. And then an operations plan to be submitted for city review prior to occupancy, stating exactly how high the containers will be, the truck idling time that they're anticipating and maximums, the security on site, and the traffic patterns. And then a last condition that says they have to comply with all local, state, and federal rules regarding noise.
Noise and emissions.
And emissions. That's all I have so far.
Anybody want to add anything?
CYA.
So if there's no further
For a motion?
discussion, if there's no further discussion, you can say if there's no further discussion, is there a motion? Does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, if there's no more discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
And just for point of clarification, in the motion, I guess
It would
the
include-
question would need to be, in the motion, we need to also include, if the motion supports it or requests it, what those conditions have been. And so we may want to, I suggest we read the motion and then you include on the record what those conditions are included in the motion.
Well, I think they can say consistent with the 3 conditions of approval that Matt just read out loud on the record.
Okay, as long as we
Yeah, yeah.
reference.
No, I hear
those.
you. I
Okay,
agree.
good. Thank you.
Well, I'd make the motion to approve, based upon the findings and fact of any testimony, the conditions of approval and staff recommendation listed in the staff report. And because of the proposed project satisfies the application criteria, I motion for the adoption of the findings from the staff report dated February 9th, 2019, and further motion that the Planning Commission approve site plan number SP 18-02, Mid-Willamette Valley Intermodal Transfer Center, pursuant to the conditions and approval listed in the staff report. Would you like to list the approvals or the conditions?
Including the 3 that were
Yes.
previously read out loud.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you want to incorporate those conditions in your motion?
Yes.
Okay. So the record will so reflect, and Matt, you acknowledge that, is that right?
Correct.
Good, we're set.
Okay, we've had a
I
motion.
second.
And we have a second. Any more discussion, questions? We'll call for a vote then. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, now you will need, good.
Okay, before we dismiss, we have a conclusion. We'd like to thank all of you who testified tonight. Your comments were very helpful. Thank you. If you would like to appeal this decision to the City Council, you must appeal within the next 15 days. We are,
Chairman, I have one question.
okay, yes, hold on a minute.
The food truck court.
Okay.
Several months ago, that area coming off was supposed to be paved. That hasn't happened. Is that going to be happening?
They are working on that. I think the condition of approval said that they had to submit it to the city within a certain period of time for our approval, and we have seen their proposal
Okay,
for
so they're
paving
working
that.
on it.
Oh, yeah, we're
Okay.
going back and forth with them on that right now.
The
Okay.
batch plants are not open yet, and when they are, they're backed up. You can't open up a batch plant,
Yes.
asphalt, when the weather is below a certain degree, and that's the reason that they haven't paved it.
Okay, just curious.
But they've given us plans, and we've given them some feedback, and they're revising them right now, I think, and they're
Okay.
going to get it back into us shortly.
Cool.
Yep, they're working on it.
We're adjourned. Thank you for coming.